Let's write a program that makes a picture. Before we even talk about colors and graphics and processing and programming, let's just jump in and make a picture. So I'm going to throw a lot of stuff at you really fast, and I'm just going to ask you to hang on, like a toboggan ride. Just hang on, pick up what you can, and we'll make a picture together. And then throughout the rest of this week and in following weeks, we'll look at all of this stuff in much more detail, and you'll master all of it. But for right now, hey, let's just do something. So I'm going to start with what I call a skeleton program. And I don't mean like this fully articulated model with a million little pieces, but really just an outline of the thing we're going to then fill in. So we always start with the same outline and fill it in. So here's the skeleton program we're going to begin with. We start with the word void, V-O-I-D, and you type it in exactly like this, all in lowercase. Don't worry about what it is or why. Again, we'll get to that. After the word void, you type a space, and then you type the word setup, all one word, again, all lowercase, an open parenthesis, and an immediate close parenthesis. There's no space in there. After that, type a space and an open curly brace. So now hit the Enter key 3 or 4 times. The exact number doesn't matter. And at the beginning of a new line, type a closing curly brace. Okay, that's always going to be there. This stuff, void, setup, paren, space, open curly brace, close curly brace, you're going to type that in almost every processing program you ever write. This is going to become an old friend, and we'll see what this is about, but let's march on. First thing we want to do is create a window that will hold our graphics. And now I'm just writing this down as placeholders. This is to remind us what it is we want to do. And I'm beginning each line with 2 slashes. That's the processing way of saying, I'm just writing a message to myself. I'm making a comment. I'm not writing actual processing code. And the computer ignores everything that comes after 2 forward slashes through to the end of a line. So on the first line, we'll write the first line of the program we write, create the window. Now, the second thing we're going to do is set the background color of the window. It has a default kind of gray color. We'll give it a color we like. And then the third thing is draw some graphics. So let's replace these 3 placeholder lines with real processing code that will actually run. So first step, create the window. Here's how you do it. You type the word size, all in lowercase, followed by an open parenthesis, then the width of the window that you want to create in pixels on your screen, followed by a comma, followed by the height of the window you want in pixels on your screen, followed by a closing parenthesis and a semicolon. All that punctuation is important. The parentheses, the comma, and the semicolon, they all have to be there. So let me give you an example. Suppose I want to create a graphics window that's 200 pixels wide by 500 pixels high. It'll look something like this. That would be our graphics window, and this is how you type it. More typically, I'm going to create windows that are wider than they are tall. It sort of fits my monitor better. So here's a window that's 600 pixels wide by 400 pixels high, and it has this kind of a shape. So I'm going to pick that as the shape for our starting program. But you can type any 2 numbers in here, and as long as the thing fits on your screen, you can create that window. But now let's change the background color. The way to do that is you call background, again, all one word, all lowercase, just type it in. And just like before, we're going to have an open parenthesis, a value followed by a comma, another value and a comma, and a third value, then a closing parenthesis, and a semicolon. These 3 values, which I've written RGB, stand for the red, green, and blue components of the color. I'm going to talk about red, green, blue colors and how to pick them and how to choose them this week. And we're going to see everything that these RGBs mean. But for right now, all you have to keep in mind is you can use a color picker any color picker that you like online, or you can just type in 3 random numbers. These 3 values are all from the range 0 to 255. And we'll see how to pick them, but let's just look at some examples. So here's one where I have red at 255. That means red is as bright as it can be. And green and blue are both at 0. They're as dark as they can be. The result is it would create a background color like that. And this little picture shows us what the graphics window would look like if we typed this line into our processing program. Now, I'm not crazy about that color. So here's a nicer color. And I got this just by messing around with a color picker, and we will talk about this. But this creates kind of a yellow color that I find pleasing. You can mess around with colors all day. Again, these 3 numbers are just any number you like between 0 and 255. This one creates kind of a light blue color. I'm going to pick the yellow color for the rest of this example, but you can use any numbers that please you. Finally, we're going to draw some graphics. Now, we're going to talk about that in detail this week, but again, fast toboggan ride down the mountain. Here's how you draw a rectangle. You say rect, all lowercase, open parenthesis, and now we're going to type 4 values separated by commas, close parenthesis, semicolon. Again, all that punctuation is important. In the case of a rectangle, the first 2 numbers describe the X and Y of the upper left corner of the rectangle, measured from the upper left corner of the graphics window. So X measures how far to the right you are of the upper left corner, and Y measures how far down you are. Width tells processing how far to the right the rectangle extends. Height tells it how far down it extends. So let me give you an example. This says draw a rectangle, and let's read the numbers left to right. 100 units from the left side of the window, 100 units down from the top of the window, make it 100 units wide by 100 units tall. And these units are just pixels, the little dots on your screen. If we do that, processing will create this picture. By default, when you draw a rectangle and you haven't set anything else up, it draws a white rectangle with a black box around it. And of course, we can change that. Let me show you another rectangle. This one is 300 units to the right of the left edge. Now it's only 50 units down from the top, 50 units wide, and 250 units high. So it's a tall, skinny rectangle. All right? I know we're going fast. We're going to talk about all this in detail, but that's how you draw a rectangle. So now let's go back to our program and type in these lines. So here's the program as we left it. Again, you have to type it in exactly this way. The words that we're going to see are all in lowercase, and the punctuation is very important. So first thing we're going to do is get rid of create the window, and we'll replace that with the call we saw before, size, and I like 600 by 400. It fits nicely on my screen. If you run just this program, remember the third and fourth lines here are comments and processing ignores them. If you run this program just as it is, it will create a graphics window for you with a boring background color, but it's the right size. Okay, so let's change the background color. I'm going to erase that line and using my text editor, just, backspace over it or delete it. It's a regular text editor, and type the background color that we like. And here's the lemon yellow color that I selected before. If you run this program, this is what processing will create for you. So beautiful. Now let's draw some graphics. I'm going to delete the line that says draw graphics. And in its place, I'm going to draw one of those rectangles from before. We've now created a complete program. If we run it, we actually get some graphics. This is what processing will do. And if we want to draw more rectangles, tell you what, let's draw the second rectangle that we saw from the earlier example. Well, we'll just add another line to the bottom. And we'll type in the command for that rectangle. And if we run this program, we'll get this picture. Well, I'm drawing all of this on slides. Let's actually see it in processing. Here's the program in processing. I've just typed in exactly what we saw before, the exact same punctuation and spaces and everything, except now it's sitting inside of this processing editor. So I'm going to go up to the Run button, the right pointing arrow in a circle, and I'm simply going to click it. That tells processing to run this program. And lo and behold, it makes exactly what we intended. It created a graphics window 600 pixels wide by 400 pixels high. It made the background a yellow color, and it created two boxes of the size and shape and location that we specified. So once I'm done admiring this program and how beautiful it is, I will click in the close box, the little red X that closes any window, and that also ends the program, and we've written our first processing program. If you want to mess around with this, go for it. There's a bunch of numbers on the screen. Change them at will. Play with them willy-nilly. You can't go wrong. You can't break anything. Have fun. Again, remember the size of the window. If you make it bigger than your monitor, it'll just fall off the sides. So you can, but I recommend keeping it about no larger than your monitor. The three values that go into background are all in the range 0 to 255. And then the rectangle has four numbers, and you can refer to the earlier slide to remember what they mean. The four numbers are, first, how far to the right the upper left corner is located, how far down from the top the upper left corner is located, how far to the right the rectangle extends, that's its width, and how far down the rectangle goes, that's its height. If you want more rectangles, just make more rectangles. The program is read from top to bottom, just like we wrote it. And so if you make new rectangles that overlap the old ones, well, they just overlap the old ones. And you can even make interesting stacking effects. We're going to talk about all this stuff in detail, but this is our first processing program. Give it a run, get familiar with typing stuff into the text editor, and now we're going to dig into some of the details so you can make even more interesting images this week.